Chapter 1701. Han Xiaoran was upright and outspoken. He enforced the law impartially. Everyone in the world admired him. It was natural for him to take over as the law enforcement master of the world. As for the team directly under Han Xiaoran, it was made up of Shuo Xinliang, Qin Baoshan, Wn Renjie, Cheng Juiying, and the officers under Lang Yilong. Of course, there were almost no law enforcement officers left now. The so-called supervision was just a nominal term. Their real duty at this stage was to monitor the world and guard against thieves. Especially at this moment when a myriad of things were waiting to be done, there would surely be many unrighteous people that would take advantage of the situation, and it just so happened that there was a need for a formidable force to stop them. However, in order to control the world, one must have considerable power and strength, especially Han Xiaoran, the law enforcement master of the world. Therefore, when Chu Yang took out the heavy pill and fed it to Han Xiaoran, he also gave him a cup of wine. Once Han Xiaoran's worries were completely resolved, he also gave him a cup of wine. 1 cup of wine, hundreds of years of cultivation. As for Shuo Xinliang, Qin Baoshan, Wn Renjie and the others, they would naturally be promoted as well. It was just that when Wn Renjie and the others came, they had sighed for a long time. The Chen clan was exterminated, but it wasn't exterminated by their own hands. Wn Renjie and Cheng Juiying felt guilty towards their old friends. After Chu Yang's persuasion, they finally felt a little better. After receiving the appointment that night, Chu Yang, Wn Renjie and the others immediately set off to pay their respects to Wei Wuyan. They buried Wei Wuyan's severed hand together with his body. At night, everyone got drunk in front of Wei Wuyan's grave. Thinking back to the changes in the situation when they left the northwest, he still felt like it was a dream. As for the northwest side, it was assigned to the 3 Stars Divine clan to recuperate and build up strength. In order to keep the various clans in check and balance, the law enforcement officers specially invited Elder Yu of the Elf clan, Jiyu Igu of the 3 Stars Divine clan, and a few other elders to serve as the law enforcement officers' guest elders. Regarding the fairness and impartiality of the law enforcement measures, all shall be treated equally and supervised. As for Jun Shizhu, the leader of the Dark Bamboo of the 3 Heavens, she had followed the instructions of the Moonbreeze couple. He also wanted to appoint a position to win over the head of the triad. However, Jun Shizhu had resolutely resigned. She had already taken her revenge. So, she no longer had any worries in her heart. She only wanted to stay in the upper 3 heavens. She had no interest in the higher level of the upper 3 heavens. At most, I will only visit my younger sister once in a while. Other than that, I don't even feel like coming to the upper 3 heavens, Jun Shizhu said. Even the descendants of the tribulation are ungrateful. So, the geomancy of the upper 3 heavens isn't necessarily good either. So, they disdain to live here for a long time. Everyone smiled bitterly. This sentence could be said to be somewhat extreme. But then, he remembered the Jun family's 10,000 years of injustice. However, he couldn't help but sigh. Xiao Wei, if you dare to bully Lulu, I will personally come and cut you up. After leaving behind such a valiant sentence, the triad boss of the 3 Heavens triad walked away in a carefree manner. Dukyu rubbed his nose. Under everyone's strange gazes, he almost wanted to stuff his head into his trousers. He had such a valiant aunt. Dukyu could be considered to be very accommodating. Disregarding everything else, he could feel a chill in his crotch at all times. Cough. News came from the southeast. The Huang clan had also been attacked by the law enforcement officers. Except for Huang Xiaoliu and a few other people who came from afar to participate in the Tianding Grand Meeting, the rest of the high-level martial artists of the Huang clan were all killed. The only fortunate thing was that the Huang clan didn't belong to a big clan after all. So, the law enforcement officers didn't kill them all. So, the old, weak, women and children were still alive. The high-level martial artists under Duke Huang were also included in the ranks of the law enforcement officers. They were under unified management and command. In addition, the Chu clan of the southeast announced that they would withdraw from the Jianghu. They had a high status and existed in the flat mountain ridge. They were in close cooperation with the law enforcement officers. However, They didn't come out unless it was necessary to live. The world was desolate. According to the words of the people who came here, there were a lot of people from the Jianghu on the road. However, after this catastrophe, the road was unexpectedly safe. There weren't many people from the Jianghu. The law enforcement officers purged the world. Their target wasn't just to purge the big clans. Based on the intelligence network of the law enforcement officers, almost all the martial artists in the world were within the scope of their intelligence. This time, almost all the martial artists who were above the martial emperor level were killed. Occasionally, there were some who slipped through the net, but at most, it was only 2 or 3 out of 10,000. It was a very vivid image of a hare on an ox. As the saying goes, heroes use martial arts to break the rules. It was precisely because martial artists had martial arts that they could be above ordinary people. Only when they had profound martial arts could they do things without any scruples and do as they pleased. One of the consequences of the Dharma Supreme's bloodbath was that the number of martial artists in the world was greatly reduced, especially the number of high-level martial artists. From this, it greatly reduced the number of martial artists who relied on their martial arts to do things without any scruples. From another perspective, it also formed a different meaning of stopping war. Whether it was a merit or a fault, it was up to the individual to decide. Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro led the remaining law enforcement officers to gradually reorganize the world. Then, they would rest for a period of time, quietly waiting for the flames of war to rise again on the continent. By then, it would be time for the knowledgeable people to rise up and lead the masses to establish a new country and a new order. Of course, this process was also full of blood. However, this bloody process was necessary and even more necessary. Only after the bloodshed would there be empires standing tall. From then on, the days when the big clans dominated the world would never go away. It would return. Instead, it would be replaced by the rule of a dynasty. In the Yi clan's courtyard, they were discussing these important matters of the world in the future. Diwu Qingru, Mo Tianji, and the others were all involved. Chu Yang carried the child and quietly walked out with Ning Tianya. "Elder Ning, where will you go from here on out?" Chu Yang asked casually. "I don't intend to go up anymore." Ning Tianya was rather bleak. He said, "Back when I went up and was chased down by Lord, this feeling of mine faded away. Besides, I also know that this so-called number 1 expert of mine can't survive in the heavenly imperial court. Otherwise, why would you ask me to come down? Can't someone else do it?" Ning Tianya smiled casually. "In life, there are some things and some experiences that you once had. It's enough. There's no need to force it. It's useless to force it." Chu Yang nodded in understanding. This elder had tens of thousands of years of experience and had long seen through the ways of the world. His mind was naturally deep and he was not stagnant in worldly affairs. "There's just one thing. My disciple Qingwu, you must treat her better in the future." Ning Tianya smiled bitterly and said, "When Tai Yang becomes the king, I shall be a state teacher in Iron Cloud of the lower 3 heavens." Chu Yang was dumbfounded. State teacher? Ning Tianya? No matter what, he couldn't believe that such an impossible thing would happen. Ning Tianya's nature was like that of a wild crane. But, he actually wanted to be a state teacher. Chu Yang wouldn't be as surprised as he was at this moment even if a super unconventional person like Tan Tan suddenly became the Dharma Supreme. Ning Tianya smiled bitterly and said, "Do you think I'm willing? This official position is given to me by that baby of yours. Moreover, the reason why I don't go up is that I want to coldly look at the way of reincarnation in the lower 3 heavens. There's a path in the heavenly imperial court. There may not be no path in the human world. There may not be only one path for a cultivator to move forward." Chu Yang slowly digested Ning Tianya's last sentence. He suddenly felt that he had benefited immensely. There may not be no path in the human world. There may not be only one path for a cultivator to move forward. "Little, what do you want to discuss with me?" Chu Yang turned his hand and patted the little buttocks of his son who was riding on his neck. He only felt that the buttocks were tender and nice to the touch. So, he couldn't help but pat them again. "I came here to ask you, father. I heard that your cultivation has reached the standard of the void-breaking realm. And, you're about to leave this world. If you leave, what will happen to my mother? The little guy was riding on Chu Yang's neck. His tender little legs were swinging in front of Chu Yang's chest. However, the words that came out of his mouth were like that of an adult. The moment he heard this, Chu Yang's head started to hurt. I've discussed this matter with your mother. I also have a secret method that can help your mother quickly improve her cultivation and follow me. However, you still need a long time to grow up. Your mother is shouldering the fate of Iron Cloud Nation and the heavy responsibility of the people. She can't bear to leave you, little bastard. She's unwilling to leave. Chu Yang knew that his son was mischievous and had his own opinions. Moreover, his opinions were unique and not inferior to that of an adult. Therefore, he didn't really treat this little guy as an insensible child. Thinking of Tai Butian's determination, Chu Yang really had a headache. In Chu Yang's opinion, his woman should follow him without hesitation. What was the point of living in two different places, separated by heaven and earth? However, Tai Butian's choice was indeed to stay without hesitation. The reality was actually so cruel and melodramatic and super speechless to the point of driving one crazy. I have an idea. But I need your cooperation. The little guy chuckled and leaned close to Chu Yang's ear. Wonderful. Chu Yang was beaming with joy. He turned around and saw Ning Tianya. Rolling his eyes, he said to Ning Tianya, Elder Ning, I may have to trouble you to make this trip. Ning Tianya said warily, What for? You're not up to something again, are you? Elder Ning, you don't have to be so guarded against me, right? I just want to ask you to go to the lower three heavens and bring this little one's mother up. Firstly, let her know where her son is and be at ease. Secondly, let her acknowledge her ancestors. Thirdly, we have to discuss future matters again, said Chu Yang. Chu Yang knew very well that he couldn't go. If he went, there would be no real meaning in staying in the lower three heavens. Tai Butian might still be reluctant to come to the upper three heavens. It would be best to let Ning Tianya bring her up directly and settle everything here. With her son here, with Tai Butian's love for her child, there was no way she wouldn't come. Yes, her son is that little girl's lifeline, Ning Tianya said cheerfully, I see. There's no time to lose. I'll leave right away. Your family should indeed be reunited for a few days. In that case, I'll have to trouble you, Elder Ning. Watching Ning Tianya disappear at an extremely fast speed like a stream of light, Chu Yang also felt relieved. The rest would be everyone's business. With the little guy's reminder, Chu Yang thought of another matter. Once he and the others left, what would happen to everyone's families? Jiyu Duxing's sister Xiaomiao, Jimo's Huyan Aobua, Xie Danqiong's wife, Ao Sheyun's concubines? Their brothers' families. What should they do about these? Chapter 1702. Abandon all of them? That was obviously impossible. Furthermore, no one would be willing to do that. If someone said that, Chu Yang would probably beat that person to death. Sigh, let's discuss this with everyone. Chu Yang frowned. Chu Yang frowned. He felt a headache coming on. When you reach this level, you won't think so much. But now, it's something you have to consider. Novel chapters are the fastest to update. What should we do? Once we go up, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to come back down. Otherwise, why hasn't anyone come down for so many years? Mo Tianji said, so, we have to bring them along. But the problem is how to bring them up. They are obviously not strong enough. The difference is too big. Besides, once you get up there, you'll have to start from the very beginning. The road ahead will be filled with thorns, and every step will be filled with danger. Life and death will be more difficult than the heavens. They don't even have the ability to protect themselves. It was late at night. The group of brothers gathered together to discuss this matter. All of them racked their brains but were unable to come up with a solution. Strength was a shortcoming. It was a problem that couldn't be solved. At this moment, everyone was envious of Dong Wushong. It seemed like this guy had it the easiest. That's why people say that simple people have good fortune. Mo Leier's YJ had also reached the limit, and even exceeded it. The two of them could fly up together without any worries. Dong Wushong frowned and thought hard. The more honest a person was, the less they would think. At the very least, he wasn't happy for ZJ at all. He was also relieved. Instead, he was feeling guilty. ZJ went up peacefully, but the brothers couldn't do it. ZJ was too much of a jerk, but what should they do? Dong Wushong's face turned black. Everyone sighed and sighed. They were all at their wits' end. Everyone looked at Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji finally panicked. Why are you all looking at me? Do you think I have a way to make them break through the void in one night? Do you really think I'm a god? Even gods don't have such great abilities. If there is no difficulty, we must do it. If there is a difficulty, we must do it. Even if there's no other way, we have to think of a way. Jimo, Xiedan Qiong, and Ao Xieyun didn't give up. We'll be separated by life and death this time. At the very least, we won't be able to see each other for a few decades. When we come back, it'll be really terrible. Perhaps in the end, a beautiful woman's hair will turn white, the sea will change into mulberry fields, or even death. How about none of us go up? Tan Tan tugged at ZJ's hair. You can be a king here, and you even have a beautiful woman to accompany you. Life is beautiful. That's all there is to it. The idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. We still need someone to come and pick us up. He reckoned that YJNG was being lenient. I think someone must be manipulating this to let us prepare for this. Also, the Sky Demon's descent should be a training for us. Otherwise, we will not be able to survive this ordeal. Otherwise, with the cultivation of the Dharma Supreme, he shouldn't have stayed here. Besides, the Chongtian continent has always been different from other planes. In other planes, as long as one reaches the level of Supreme Master, one can break through the void. But here, one needs to reach the peak of Supreme Master before one can ascend. Now, after we leave, perhaps this restriction will be the same as the other planes. Chu Yang frowned as he analyzed. The more he analyzed, the more his head hurt. This is all a fucking matter. God, you're not playing with us, are you? Everyone sighed together. Actually, I have a way that isn't really a way. In the tribulation space. The sword spirit said weakly, it's just that. Even if we really go up, there will be a certain amount of risk. Why don't we not talk about it? Chu Yang was shocked. What kind of method is this? Tell me. You still have one, right? Tell me quickly. The sword spirit said, I remember telling you that although our tribulation space can grow heavenly treasures, it can't store living things. But now that you've obtained the 8th fragment of the tribulation sword, you can store a few living people in it. Also, with the current tribulation space, even if you store a few hundred people, you can still fit them in. But in this way, there are a few concerns that must be solved beforehand. First, they are not strong enough. The Heaven's Imperial Court is the realm of the strong, and its pressure is far greater than that of ordinary planes. The gravity is even stronger. Even the most ordinary plane is several times stronger than that of the Heaven's continent. Their bodies may not be able to bear it. Chu Yang said without hesitation, that's good, Rongi. Although we don't have enough resources to make them break through the void like us, it's still a problem for us to slowly raise them to first-grade supreme martial artist. You can continue with your other concerns. The second concern is that after you go up, you may not be able to gather together. The chances of you splitting up are more than 50%. And these people are all with you, so you need to take care of them. You have to be careful. You don't have any foundation in the Heaven's Imperial Court. You won't even have the most basic place to stay. The sword spirit said, Master won't help you with this. Chu Yang pondered for a while and said, this isn't a big problem. The first thing to do after we go up is to solve this problem. At most, if we don't solve it, everyone will still have to wait in the tribulation space for a while. That's fine. It's better than going out and losing our lives. There's a third concern, and it's also the biggest one. After you go up, you'll face countless hardships. There's a great chance that you'll be in danger at every step. You won't have the energy to take care of them. The sword spirit smiled bitterly. Chu Yang sighed. This was really a big problem. There was nothing wrong with it. It was his duty to take care of his brothers' families. But he was afraid that if he didn't take care of them well, and someone got hurt, what should he do? In such an unknown world, China's strength was at the bottom of the food chain. How could everything go according to plan? That was the Heaven's Imperial Court, where one could kill a person every 10 steps. Danger was everywhere. It wasn't like the peace and prosperity of the lower 3 heavens. Chu Yang finally couldn't help but sigh. The brothers turned to look at him. Chu Yang pondered and said, "I do have a way to bring all of them up." But, as he spoke, he told them about the 3 concerns that the sword spirit had considered. When everyone heard it, they couldn't make up their minds. If they couldn't solve these 3 concerns, they might as well not bring them up. Even if they were separated for a while, it was still better than losing their lives. If we can raise them to first-grade supreme martial artists, they'll be able to survive in the Heaven's Imperial Court. If they keep a low profile, there shouldn't be any problems. Mo Tianji pondered and said, the men should keep a low profile, and the women should cover up their appearances. This way, they shouldn't attract any trouble. And with boss taking care of them, even if we're separated, we'll be at ease. I have some concerns about this. Jiyu Duxing said, "That's right, this is fine." Everyone nodded and agreed. It's just that boss will have to work a little too hard. What's a little hard? I'm just worried that if I don't take good care of them, I won't be able to face my brothers in the future. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. Tianji, the other concern you mentioned just now is a little hard. The other concern is more or less vulgar, but it's also a problem that we have to face. Mo Tianji smiled faintly and said, after we go up, it's certain that we'll go our separate ways. I don't know when we'll be together again. So, this period of time will be very long, so long that ordinary women can't afford to wait. Jiyu Duxing and the others fell silent again. Yes, age is easy, and youth flows like water. A woman's youthful appearance would only last for a few years at most. How could they let their beauties wait for nothing? After decades, their brothers would still be as handsome as before, but their beauties would have wrinkled skin and white hair. If that was the case, how could they endure it? Whether it was the brothers or each other's beauties, none of them would be able to accept it. If that was really the case, everyone would rather die than live. Chu Yang smiled and said, "This isn't a big problem. I can refine elixirs that can preserve one's youthful appearance, so that everyone's beauties will not age. Of course, this elixir also requires everyone's cultivation. If your cultivation can't be raised, you can only maintain your youthful appearance for a few decades. That's all. A few decades is more or less enough." Mo Tianji made a prompt decision. Then, it's decided. The brothers nodded. Their faces were heavy as they pondered. This meant that after they rushed up to the Heaven Imperial Court, everyone only had a few decades to develop. In these few decades, even if they couldn't rush to the peak, they would at least have a place. Otherwise, their previous concerns would still be a problem that couldn't be solved. With the talents of us brothers, within 3 to 5 years, we can reach the peak of the Heaven Imperial Court. Can't we establish a firm foothold in the Heaven Imperial Court in a few decades? Mo Tianji said decisively. After this matter is over, we will immediately go home. As for the people who are willing to come with us, bring them here. As for the others, let the boss worry about it. Who asked him to be our boss? Mo Tianji gave everyone more time to think. For this kind of matter, the more they thought about it, the more they had doubts. It was better to cut the Gordian knot and make a decision. Otherwise, even if they discussed for another year, the result would be the same today. There wouldn't be a better solution. What everyone lacks the most now is SHJ with Macron N. After everyone goes back, the main thing to ask about is our families. Mo Tianji's eyes revealed a bitter expression. The brothers also sighed in unison. Everyone was sighing. Everyone was well aware of it. But no one said it out loud. Yes, this time, Qingwu will come home with me to bid farewell to her parents. Mo Tianji said to Chu Yang. Okay, I'll go. Chu Yang nodded silently. Everyone was also silent. Mo Tianji's bid farewell to her parents was tantamount to explaining everything. Chapter 1703. Children and grandchildren had their own paths. Their parents couldn't possibly accompany them for a generation. And the elders would definitely not agree to drag them down with them. But this time, the future was unknown again. They could only wait until everyone had a firm foothold and reached a certain level of cultivation before they could bring their families up. But when would that be? A few years later? A few decades later? A few hundred years later? Chu Yang said, I think, since the matter of the extraterrestrial demons this time is controlled by the higher-ups, we will definitely have a certain amount of time to prepare. But this period of time won't be too long. Let's move quickly. All right. The next morning, the Tribulation Brothers swept out of the upper three heavens like whirlwinds. They went their separate ways, rushing toward their respective homes in the three heavens. Tan also immediately led a group of experts from the Three Stars Divine clan back to the northwest to settle all matters in the clan. Diwu Qingru, Feng Yu, Han Xiaoran, and the rest were even busier. They wished they could grow more heads and limbs. The entire continent had descended into chaos. How could it be easy to clean it up? Diwu Qingru actually had a few strands of white hair in just these 2 days. Wu Jueqing had nothing to worry about. He decided to stay at the place where the Dharma Supreme had died for a few more days. Even though they were once enemies, even though they were once like fire and water, Wu Jueqing still brought wine and paid his respects to this former tribulation from afar. This was a formidable person who had overturned the world and cleansed the entire continent. Chu Yang brought his son and sister and prepared to return to the Chu clan in the southeast. Everyone agreed that once they sensed that the world was about to shatter, they would immediately rush back to the law enforcement city to meet. Everyone would shatter the void together and step into the heavenly imperial court. Just as Chu Yang was about to leave, he received an unexpected surprise. Yi Shiyu was back. Yi Shiyu's return was of course no surprise. But the resurrection grass he brought back was the only good medicine to treat Yi Chu-chen. When Yi Shiyu came back and learned that the Yi clan was gone, he fainted on the spot. After that, he cried bitterly. He entrusted the resurrection grass to Chu Yang to bring back, while Yi Shiyu himself stayed at the Yi clan residence to keep watch. Chu Yang couldn't bear to look at the endless desolation of guarding graves all over the place. After bidding farewell to Yi Shiyu, Feng Yu, and the rest, Chu Yang left a message. He told Ning Tianya to bring Tai Butian straight back to the southeast when he returned. Then, with Chu Le in his arms, he traveled through the night to the southeast. Southeast, my home. I'm back. Never before. Chu Yang was so anxious to return home. Right after Chu Yang and the others left the Yi clan, late at night. Somewhere in the ruins of the Yi clan. Suddenly, the earth shook. Slowly, the ground rose. If an ordinary person were to see such a situation, they might be scared out of their wits. Puff, a light sound was heard. A human head popped out of the ground, covered in mud from head to toe. Looking around, she saw that the Yi clan was desolate and bleak. She couldn't help but choke with sobs. The mysterious man tried his best to control himself. Forcing himself not to make any noise, he stealthily pulled himself out of the ground and tidied up his face. The faint moonlight shone on his face, but his features were distinct. Yi Zui. It turned out to be the eldest young master of the Yi family. Other than Yi Shiyu, the Yi clan actually had other descendants left behind. After Yi Zui successfully broke free from the temptation of the extraterrestrial demon with his own willpower, Yi Chen knew that this great-great-grandson of his would definitely achieve great things in the future. He couldn't bear to see him die in vain during this extermination of the clan. They were buried together and executed the secret technique. With a single palm strike, he sealed all of his life force and buried him underground. Several days had already passed since the end of the battle. The power of the secret technique gradually dissipated and Yi Zui also slowly regained his consciousness. He broke out of the ground and saw the light of day again. At this moment, Yi Zui was wandering around the Yi clan courtyard like a ghost. Everywhere he passed, as far as his eyes could see, there was only desolation and desolation. There was no sign of life at all. His eyes grew dimmer and dimmer, finally returning to a dead silence. Finally, in the west, a faint light flickered. Yi Zui quietly went over. That was where Yi Zui's last hope lay. Under the night wind and the moonlight. A stretch of graves connected together. There were so many soul-summoning banners that it was as boundless as a white ocean. A lone light as small as a bean. A figure knelt under the light like a clay sculpture. Yi Shiyu. Yi Zui suddenly discovered that a member of the Yi clan was his own younger brother. The emotions that he had accumulated for a long time could no longer be suppressed. They suddenly erupted and he rushed out in a frenzy, grabbing Yi Shiyu by the collar. What's going on? What's going on? What exactly is going on? What happened? Why did the Yi clan become like this? Tell me quickly, tell me. Yi Shiyu's body swayed in his hands as if he had lost all vitality. His face was ashen and his eyes were bleak and lifeless. After a long, long time, as if he finally recognized who Yi Zui was, he suddenly burst into tears. Big brother tilde, we're finished. The Yi clan is finished. It's all over. What exactly is going on? Yi Zui gritted his teeth. Tell me quickly. After a long time, the two brothers sat across from each other. The dim light from the lantern illuminated their faces, flickering on and off. The two originally handsome faces were actually so ferocious and terrifying. Dharma Supreme. Extraterrestrial demon. Extraterrestrial demon. Yi Zui bit his lip hard. Streaks of red blood flowed down. He clenched his fists tightly and suddenly roared into the sky. In this lifetime, I swear that I will exterminate the extraterrestrial demon and take revenge for this blood feud. If I violate this oath, may the heavens punish me and I will be worse than a dog or a pig. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Then, heavy rain poured down. Yi Zui fell to his knees with a thud, sobbing silently. His mouth was almost gnawing into the soil. His tears flowed silently along with his blood. The next morning, the Yi clan's mansion was suddenly empty. Not only Yi Zui, even Yi Shiyu was nowhere to be found. It was a complete desolation. Only incense and candles were placed neatly on the ground. Within a radius of several hundred miles, the smell of wine was everywhere. The morning breeze blew and the spirit-summoning banners rustled. It was such a huge graveyard. There was actually no one guarding the tomb. That endless desolation and devastation made the hearts of everyone who saw this scene feel heavy. From then on, no one saw Yi Zui in this heavenly continent anymore. No one saw Yi Shiyu again. The siblings, Chu Yang and Chu Le were eager to return home. They ran at a speed that was almost beyond their limits. In a short time, they had already stepped into the southeast border. This was the first time the eldest young master of the Chu clan, Tai Yang, had returned home. The commotion he caused was unprecedented in the Chu clan. Even when his father, Chu Yang, returned home previously, it wasn't as eye-catching as him. Chu Le rushed into Flat Mountain Ridge, shouting and yelling. Before they reached home, Yang Ruolan and Chu Feiling had already jogged out to welcome them. They carried a certain baby from Chu Yang's neck and called him darling non-stop. Chu Xiongqing and Old Master Chu also came out trembling in bliss. Old Master Yang Bao and his wife also rushed out. They almost fought with Old Master Chu on the spot to see who could carry him longer. In the end, Old Mistress Yang won. Old Master Chu Xiongqing had no wife to support him, so he had no choice but to temporarily be at a disadvantage. He went up to tease his great-grandson but was pushed aside by Old Master Yang. You old man, go to one side. You came so close. Are you trying to take advantage of my wife? Do you think you'll die of old age? Old Master Chu was speechless. With your wife's character, I don't even care if she comes to me. Am I going over because of your wife? I'm doing it for my great-grandson, okay? He's obviously my great-grandson, okay? He's a member of the Chu clan. You're holding my great-grandson hostage. Do you know how to be a guest? The two of you are obviously trying to steal the limelight from the host. What is this? In the end, the commotion was really too big. Even Old Master Chu Xiaoshan floated out. When he saw Tai Yang, he couldn't help but exclaim. He took a few careful looks and nodded repeatedly. Chu Xiongqing said respectfully, Elder Master, What do you think of this child's talent? Chu Xiaoxin gave a rare warm smile and said, our Chu clan is really blessed. With these two fathers, our Chu clan will be able to do whatever we want and live as long as the heavens. I can finally rest assured. Ha ha, ha ha. Laughing heartily, he actually floated in without even looking back. The little fellow was very eloquent and well behaved. His little mouth was so sweet that it was as if it was smeared with honey. The group of people were all very happy. Naturally, they gave out a lot of gifts. For a moment, the Chu clan's courtyard was filled with cheers and laughter, as if it was the new year. When everyone entered the house, Chu Le leaned on her mother and refused to leave. Chu Yang went over to Meng Chaoran's side immediately. Meng Chaoran was standing at the door with his hands behind his back, as if he was specially waiting for Chu Yang. When he saw Chu Yang coming over, he smiled slightly and his expression was as calm as usual. Before Chu Yang spoke, Meng Chaoran had already asked, "Are you really leaving this time?" His expression was still as calm as ever. It was as if he didn't care if his disciple left. He didn't seem to be reluctant at all. However, Chu Yang clearly knew that his master's heart was definitely not as indifferent as it was now. Yes. Chu Yang's throat was a little dry. He spat out this word with some difficulty. Well, it's good that you're going up. The world up there is wider. Meng Chaoran encouraged, that's where you brothers can really show your skills. After a pause, he asked, where's Tan Tan? Where is he now? Why didn't he come with you? Chu Yang said, Tan Tan is now the head of a clan. He has no choice but to do things. This time, the catastrophe is over and his ascension is imminent. He has to go back to the 3 Stars Divine Clan to sort out the follow-up matters. He'll come here as soon as everything is settled and reunite with us. I estimate that it'll be in 2 or 3 days. Oh right, he'll also bring his wife over for you to take a look. Meng Chaoran's calm expression froze at this point. You're saying that he'll bring his wife over for me to take a look? Is it that, Monsieur? Meng Chaoran had always been indifferent in this world. Only 2 people could make him lose his self-control. One of them was his good disciple, Tan Tan. The other one wasn't his other disciple, King of Hell Chu. Instead, it was a girl named Xie Danfeng. I'm extremely depressed. Another keyboard is broken. I went through a lot of trouble to buy a new one and replace it. Then, after buying the new keyboard, my wife asked the guy who gave me the keyboard if he wanted to recycle the old one. I have more than 10 at home. Then, after looking at those keyboards, that guy said something that almost made me faint. He said, these keyboards can still be used. It's normal that some of the keyboards can't be used. It's just that you put things inside. For example, fruit juice, Red Bull coffee, etc. The simplest way is to put them under the sun. These keyboards have been there for a long time. They can be used now. Then, I tried them one by one. They can still be used. My God. I suddenly have 13 keyboards. 13. Fuck. Chapter 1704. Chu Yang smiled and said, it's that Miss Xie Danfeng. The 2 of them are usually inseparable. They wouldn't have separated if it weren't for the extraterrestrial demon war. Well, she'll be able to serve and be filial to you in a few days. Meng Chaoran's mind was full of thoughts. He recalled the day when he, Tan Tan, and Miss Xie Danfeng first met. He couldn't help but smile. Then, he smiled faintly and said, you 2 brothers have female confidants as your companions. You won't be lonely on the road ahead. Then, he actually shuddered. The 2 people who gave him the most headaches had become husband and wife. Moreover, they had to serve and be filial to him. Just thinking about it made his hair stand on end. Meng Chaoran twirled his beard and thought, how many days can I be filial to them? Will they be filial to me? They can't kill me, but they can anger me to death. Chu Yang smiled apologetically and said, Master, what are you talking about? How can you be old? Who dares to call you old? That person must be blind. Meng Chaoran maintained his faint smile and gently shook his head. He looked into the void with his hazy eyes. He was somewhat self-deprecating and somewhat proud. He said softly, back then, for 2 consecutive years, I picked up a baby in the snow-wind ancient temple in the first year. In the second year, I picked up another baby under the cliff. Now, the two babies have grown up. Ha ha ha, Meng Chaoran's eyes were misty as he said, half of my life's efforts have been poured into these two babies. However, even if my head was chopped off, I would never have thought that these two babies I picked up, one of them has become the Calamity Sword Master whose name has shaken the world, and the other one has become the first Devil King of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The babies that others have cultivated are at most human supremes, but the babies that I have cultivated are Sword Devils. Sword King, Demon King. Meng Chaoran lowered his head and looked at Chu Yang. Yang, do you know how proud I am in this generation? Who in this world is luckier than me? Who wouldn't be envious of me? Chu Yang also smiled warmly and said, yes. Even if others wanted such a disciple, they wouldn't be able to find one. Even if one were to break their heads, they still wouldn't be able to find one. However, Master casually picked one up. Picking one every year is a small matter. I reckon that you must have been lazy back then. Otherwise, I would have picked up dozens of legends, miracles, and miracles over the years. Meng Chaoran laughed heartily. He was no longer indifferent. With the two of you as my disciples, what more can I ask for in this life? Meng Chaoran chuckled. Tonight, I will definitely get drunk with Han Wu to celebrate this matter. Chu Yang's heart ached. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, I'm here this time. He had another piece of good news to tell his master. I've already obtained the resurrection grass that mistress needs. Meng Chaoran's eyes lit up. Really? A trace of redness suddenly appeared on his fair face. Chu Yang couldn't help but be stunned. This was the first time in so many years. This was the first time he had seen his master so excited. From this, it could be seen how important Yi Chuchen's position in master's heart was. Speaking of which, this matter wasn't done by me. It was mistress's nephew, Yi Shiyu, who spent an entire year outside searching for this elixir. It could be said that he went through a lot of trouble. He finally found it. However, the Yi clan had undergone great changes during this catastrophe. Yi Shiyu stayed at home to guard the tomb and couldn't personally deliver it to mistress. Thus, he entrusted it to me. Of course, Chu Yang didn't know that when he said this, Yi Shiyu had already disappeared without a trace. I see. The heavens have blessed us. There was joy on Meng Chaoran's face. Then, he heaved a long sigh. If Chu Chen can wake up and find out that the Yi clan no longer exists, and that Han Wu has already passed away, I really don't know how sad she will be, but if mistress never wakes up, how sad will that be? Chu Yang said, especially now that we have the ability to wake her up but haven't done so. What will mistress do then? Meng Chaoran's expression was melancholic for a long time. He said, what you say makes sense. One should always look forward. Chu Yang and Meng Chaoran walked into Meng Chaoran's room in silence. In the room, there was a quiet little table. 2 wine cups and a pot of good wine seemed to be quietly saying something. Chu Yang could only sigh deeply in his heart. What was a brother? Or maybe everyone had a different answer. But this was the case for Meng Chaoran. Regardless of the 3 sentences of heaven and earth, regardless of life and death, a cup of wine. A cup of wine, whether in the mortal world or the netherworld, whether in the mortal world or separated by yin and yang, brother, I'll drink with you. He would drink until he died. Then, we'll meet in the netherworld and continue to drink. Whether in person or in soul, this love will never become a memory. Even if we leave the netherworld, we'll never forget it and it'll stay in our hearts forever. After a long, long time, Chu Yang walked out of Meng Chaoran's small courtyard. He looked back and saw a lonely light. Someone was crying softly and someone was comforting him gently. They were Yi Chuchen and Meng Chaoran. Those two had already formed a world of their own. Chu Yang sighed deeply. Where will I go? If I go, I'll settle down in the Chu clan in this life. This is my disciple's home, and it's also my home. Occasionally, I might go out with Chu Chen to look at the mountains and rivers and the scenery of the continent. Occasionally, I'll go to the capital, or we'll go to the Ling clan. But sooner or later, I'll have to come back. This is my home, a home that I acknowledge. I won't go to the heavenly imperial court. In fact, I've never had such thoughts. I just want to spend the rest of my life peacefully with Chu Chen. I don't want anything else. You and Tan Tan, go and explore your world with peace of mind. I only hope that the two of you can remember this detached attitude of yours. As my brother, it's enough. This was what Meng Chaoran said when the master and disciple were talking just now. When Chu Yang took out the heavy pills and Xue Leihan's immortal wine to give to Meng Chaoran rejected them. I'm not being pretentious, and I'm not keeping anything for you. I really don't need it. I really don't need it. What's the use of increasing my cultivation now? I understand your intentions, and I know that you're filial. So if I need it, I won't reject it. Because it's only right for you to be filial to me. But I really don't need it now. I just want to live the rest of my life peacefully. When it's time to live, I'll live happily and naturally. When it's time to die, I'll die. But I'm not willing to extend my lifespan through external means. Just let me and your master's wife live the rest of our lives peacefully and naturally. When I was alive, I didn't have a grand life. I only hope that when I die, I can also die quietly. A person's life is like the yellow of a tree. Even if it's the kind that doesn't fall in spring and autumn, it will also fall naturally at a certain time. I've always thought that it's a very, very beautiful realm. So don't ruin it for me. I want to drink with Han Wu at his wedding. If you have the heart, please instruct your family to prepare more good wine for me. That's enough. Even if I don't care about life and death, the pride in my heart is earth-shattering. Because I have two younger brothers like this. Every time Chu Yang thought about Meng Chaoran's carefree and unrestrained manner, he felt that he was far inferior to him. His master was such a person. Once he made up his mind, he wouldn't change it no matter what. He wouldn't even hesitate a little. Not to mention others, even his closest disciple, Chu Yang, really couldn't do anything about his master's temper. Chu Yang could only wish his master well in the future. At night, little Tai Yang was already asleep. Even if he was a child prodigy, even if he was different from ordinary children, he still needed to sleep. In the study, Chu Yang sat opposite his parents. Unexpectedly, Yang Ruolan and Chu Feiling's expressions were unusually calm. They even knew that Chu Yang was about to face the collapse of the sky and the shattering of the void, and that it was very likely that they wouldn't see each other again in the future, but they were still so calm. Regarding this, Chu Yang was very surprised. This didn't seem to make sense. It also didn't match the personalities of this old couple, did it? When a baby eagle grows up, it has to leave the nest. Yang Ruolan smiled gently. Her eyes were like water as she looked at her son. The most regretful thing in my life is that I didn't get to see you grow up from a baby crying piteously to an adult, and become the man you are today. Although it's due to various reasons, it's still a dereliction of duty as a parent. Chu Feiling sighed and tried to ease the topic. Since ancient times, loving mothers tend to spoil their children. If Yang had grown up under our care, she wouldn't have experienced so many things. But she might not have become the calamity sword master now. This sentence was indeed reasonable, but for Yang Ruolan, it was unforgivable. She glared at him and said, "Well said, too well said. Because of this, you'll also lose a brother who's in love with you. Is this what you mean?" Chu Feiling's face instantly turned red. He stared at his wife with grief and indignation, saying, You clearly promised not to mention this matter again. Yang Ruolan squinted and said, "I did promise, I admit. But now I'm not keeping my promise. What can you do? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?" Chu Feiling was completely stunned. To reason with a woman, especially when this woman was his wife. What kind of brainless man would do such a thing? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud. The atmosphere in the room immediately relaxed. "Little one, don't worry and do your own things. Go on your own path." Chu Feiling coughed. "As for us, you don't have to worry. In today's heavenly layer, your father and mother can be regarded as first-class experts. There's not much room for improvement in the future, but we won't be bullied by others. Living a peaceful life is also a kind of happiness." Chapter 1705. Chu Yang nodded and admitted that what he said made sense. What do you mean by living a peaceful life? I'm waiting for the day when you show off your might in the heavenly imperial court and bring your parents up there to enjoy life. Yang Ruolan looked at her son gently and said, but for now, your father and I won't follow you up there. Firstly, we're not strong enough. Secondly, we're old now and don't have so much energy. It's good to live a peaceful life. Chu Yang sighed. Also, this little guy can't follow you up there. I want to watch him grow up. To make up for my regret of not being able to watch his father grow up. Yang Ruolan looked at her grandson tenderly. Chu Yang was speechless. Besides, it's useless for you to stay by my side if you don't go up there now. You're far inferior to my son Cutie. I think even you back then were not as good as my son Cutie. Yang Ruolan's words hit Chu Yang so hard that he rolled his eyes. She forgot about her son when she had a grandson. Oh yes, leave me more of your life-prolonging things. If I don't go up there, I won't be able to go up there. But it's good to live a few hundred more years. Maybe I can wait until you show off your might and return to the heavenly imperial court. How can my son be ordinary? Chu Yang smiled mischievously and said, there's no need to doubt this point. As long as my strength reaches a certain level, I can sneak down and stay for a few days. After I establish my kingdom, I'll bring my parents up there to play. If I feel that it's good up there, I'll stay there. If I miss home, I'll come home. That day won't be too far away. Yang Ruolan's eyes lit up and said, then you have to work hard. I'm counting on you. Your father and I just have to live carefully. My son is so promising. It's meaningless for us to wander in the martial world. We can only work hard to avoid any risks and try to live as long as possible. I want to see your glory one after another. Chu Yang nodded solemnly. Yang Ruolan's words expressed the thoughts of all parents in the world. When they were young, they had to fight and fight. It was just for the glory and splendor of their lives and to leave something for their grandchildren. But when they were old and their children and grandchildren were very capable, they had to suppress their ambitions. It was just to let their children wander outside feel at ease. They could achieve great things with peace of mind. This was the greatest and best support for their children. Night fell. Chu Yang had already returned to his room to sleep. Yang Ruolan was hugging her grandson. She looked at the little fellow's pink face as he slept soundly. Tonight, she was destined to have a sleepless night. The lights were already out. Throughout the night, she could only hear Chu Feiling tossing and turning restlessly beside her, while Yang Ruolan forcefully suppressed a long sigh. I am about to go on a long journey. This journey was fraught with thorns at every step. As parents, how could they be so safe and unconcerned? When a son travels thousands of miles, his mother worries for him. But one day, Chu Yang left. However, it wasn't just 1,000 li. 10,000 li was the barrier between two different worlds. After parting this time, he might not be able to see Jo-er again. However, the shattering of the void this time was something that could not be reversed at all, even if Chu Yang changed his mind and gave up on ascending. It was absolutely impossible for him to stay. Since things were already destined to be irreversible, the only thing the parents could do was to let their son leave in peace. Don't worry. Don't have any worries. The road ahead is boundless, and any worries can make you confused. I only hope that my child will be safe and sound. Chu Le-er's small courtyard was filled with the same atmosphere. Chu Le-er was just like how she usually was at home. She snuggled up to her mother like a kitten, breathing in her mother's scent. She quietly spent this last period of time. The next morning, the Chu clan was already bustling with noise and excitement. Chu Yang and the sword spirit also didn't sleep that night. They were preparing to leave the heavy pills and many other treasures for their family. When they opened the door, they were full of smiles as they joined in the laughter. When reuniting, cherish it. When parting, don't be sad. Above the heavenly imperial court. Reception palace. Although it was called the reception palace, it was actually just a reception area. The rooms were just slightly more luxurious. Strange. It's too strange. Why are there so many? 3 to 5 golden-robed men carefully felt the fluctuations of heaven and earth. Their faces were full of shock. Looking at the several light spots that appeared on the transparent purple crystal mirror in front of them, they couldn't help but scratch their heads in puzzlement. This was too abnormal. In the past, there would be at most 1 or 2 people breaking through the void and coming up here. But, this time, why are there so many of them this time? That's right, the number of people isn't the most strange thing. What's really strange is the cultivation of these people. They're definitely much stronger than before. I'm afraid they're already close to Earth level. What's going on? Yes, Earth level isn't that weak, but they're definitely at the human level. I've never encountered such a situation before. Look at the appearance of this continent. It's very similar to the one that third brother is in charge of. Is that so? Let me see. Yes, it's indeed here. I heard that third brother went down to maintain order in the realm last time and caught people who exceeded their realm and affected the balance. Even the purple cloud ribbon robe had one of his hands chopped off. I wonder if it's true. The person who spoke was obviously gloating. How could it be false? Haha, I heard that when third brother came back and reported this matter, he was scolded by Steward Liang. Then, Steward Liang was beaten up by General Wu. I heard that he was bedridden for half a year. But the most unlucky one is still General Wu. When General Wu wanted to go down and find a chance to restore the purple cloud ribbon robe, he was directly grounded by General Liu. I heard that the crime was actually kicking his own dog. This is really strange. That's right, General Wu hasn't been released yet. And the matter of the purple cloud ribbon robe being damaged was left unsettled. In the end, the one who suffered the least loss was third brother. But after hearing about this, third brother didn't even dare to fart. He was so scared that his face turned green. Ha ha ha, but there must be something fishy about this. Otherwise, so many people wouldn't be so unlucky because of what happened back then. Nonsense. If there's nothing fishy, I'm your son. Didn't you see that after that incident, we've been idle all this time? We don't even need to restore the balance in the lower realm. But this time, the task of breaking through the void. What should we do? What else can we do? There's no order from above for us to take action. Do you dare to take action? Cough. It's son who dares to take action. Of course, we can't take action without permission. Let's report it and let the superiors deal with it. Are you stupid? Even if you want to die, don't drag us down with you. It's our responsibility to report it. If you ask me, who should be responsible for it? Since third brother is in charge of that area, it's naturally better for him to report it himself. We don't want to get into trouble and come back. General Wu kicked his own dog and was grounded for several months. If we, little people, let out a fart at such a critical moment, won't our entire family be executed? It must have something to do with the guy who broke through the void this time. There's no doubt about that. Damn it, when those guys come up, I'd like to see what kind of outstanding people they are. They're torturing us, right? Where's third brother? Damn it, tell him to report it. After third brother heard about this, he was so scared that he went to the toilet. He hasn't come out yet. Ha ha ha, he likes to go to the toilet when he's nervous. He even fell sick. After a long time, a voice suddenly rang out, "Envoy, receive the decree." Suddenly, the few people in the room were dumbfounded. They were so shocked that they almost fainted. All of them stared at each other, unable to believe their ears. Receive the decree. What decree? Nonsense, this was the Eastern Royal Heaven. Other than the Eastern Royal Token, what else could be called a decree? But the problem was that the few of them seemed to be just insignificant guides. Many years before this, not to mention personally receiving the Eastern Emperor's decree, they had not even seen half a person who was qualified to receive the decree. And now, they were actually receiving the decree directly. Wasn't this really going to scare them to the point of pissing their pants? Earlier, why didn't they accompany third brother to the toilet? Now, they wouldn't. At the next moment, the few of them rushed out and knelt on the ground while trembling. The ranks of these brothers were really too low. It seemed that they didn't even know the basic etiquette of receiving a decree. They only knew how to kowtow. Little officials ~~ receive the decree, ttttttt. Don't misunderstand, they weren't being arrogant. Instead, they were so scared that their teeth were chattering. The messenger snorted but didn't blame him. He simply unfolded the Donghuang order and said loudly, His Majesty the Donghuang order, 3 months later, go to the Chongqian continent to bring the broken ones to Heaven Imperial Court. Based on the number of people, each envoy can only bring one person. All the broken ones will be separated and scattered to the various realms of the Heaven Imperial Court. They can't communicate with each other and can't go against each other. This Donghuang token seemed to be extremely strange. The Great Eastern Royal Emperor was actually concerned about people who had just ascended. He even specially made detailed plans and arrangements. Was this old man so free? After the envoy finished his announcement, he left the Eastern Royal token behind and left as if his butt was on fire. Even after the envoy left for a long time, the envoys still hadn't recovered from their shock. What the heck? Did I hear wrongly just now? Me too. How could? The envoys gathered in front of the Eastern Royal token and read it word by word. After reading it, they were even more confused. What the hell was going on? What was going on? His Majesty definitely wouldn't be so free. The only explanation is, these people are very important. The leader of the envoys looked solemn, and there was even fear in his eyes. Brothers, I'm afraid we've taken on a big job this time. Today is the birthday of the two leaders. Satan Yarrow and White Tiger God of War birthdays. Chapter 1706. The few envoys looked at each other, and they were so scared that they couldn't move. Moreover, we have never eaten pork or seen a pig run before, but we have heard of pigs. Usually, the officials who pass on the edict are very arrogant. How can they be so swift? Before the edict is passed on, they put up a fight, and after the edict is passed on, they are even more arrogant. This time, this person actually left so quickly. It's as if there's a tiger behind him. No matter how strong we are, it's impossible for him to be so fearful, right? That means, His Majesty is waiting for his reply. That's why he left in such a hurry. The moment they thought of this, their faces turned even paler. One of them stammered, Boss, you're right. I'm afraid we've taken on a big job this time. That's right. These people are clearly broken now, but we're only going to pick them up after 3 months. This is obviously to give them time to say goodbye to their loved ones. When has he ever been so considerate? That's right. In the past, no matter how many people are broken, only one envoy is needed. But this time, so many envoys are needed. Isn't this a bit too much of a waste of resources? Also, why don't we leave all the ascended experts in the Eastern Royal Heaven in our Eastern Royal Heaven? Why do we have to spread them all over the world? This isn't something easy to deal with. If they don't want us to leave them, where will we leave them? Are we going to smuggle them over? Or are we going to be killed as soon as we leave? Such a strange thing, I've never heard of it before. The more they speculated, the more they felt that it didn't make sense. Just as they were discussing, the Eastern Royal token suddenly emitted a bright yellow light. It slowly shrank in the air and finally turned into a small token, flashing fiercely in the air. A huge token word flashed and shot out a brilliant golden light. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared. Supreme Eastern Royal token. The few of them were sweating profusely, and they almost fainted. Oh my God, this was actually the legendary Supreme Eastern Royal token, the supreme decree of the Eastern Royal Heaven. This kind of decree represented the supreme authority. Every order must be strictly enforced. Secrets must not be leaked. If there is a leak, the entire clan will be executed. Everyone, rest well and prepare to pick up those uncles in 3 months. The golden-robed man, who was obviously the leader, said solemnly, Don't leak the secret. I wasn't joking just now. The people who came up this time are absolutely. Every single one of them is a master, a living ancestor. Brothers, we must not offend them. You can die if you're not careful. You can lose your life if you're not careful. You must be very careful. It's not easy for us brothers to live this long, is it? Everyone shuddered at the same time. What Boss said made a lot of sense. No matter where these people came from, It was absolutely right to serve them well. Once they respectfully welcomed them and sent them off as if they were serving their masters, there would be nothing left for them to do. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. Before everyone could regain their senses, they saw a man in green robes coming from afar. With a sure sound, he arrived in front of them. "I am the Prime Minister's Residence's Divine Sword Consul. The Prime Minister wants me to ask if someone in the heaven has broken through." Prime Minister? The few envoys almost fainted. Not only the monarch, even the Prime Minister sent someone over. The Prime Minister was the most powerful person in the entire Eastern Royal Heavens after the monarch. The monarch usually didn't care about worldly affairs, but the Prime Minister was the #1 person in charge of the entire situation. Over the years, millions of people had been killed in the Eastern Royal Heavens. Which one of them wasn't under the orders of the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister wouldn't even bat an eyelid if the few of them were killed. But he actually personally sent someone to ask. And the person he sent was actually one of the legendary 8 consul generals, the Divine Sword Consul. Oh my God. The Prime Minister has ordered that if any one of you leaks this out, you guys will be blessed. If something goes wrong, your ancestors will be blessed. The green-clothed man said a few words in a cold voice and then floated away. A few of the emissaries almost burst into tears. Blessed if it's leaked out. What blessed? This sentence was definitely sarcastic. It could really scare them away. Who can tell us, who are these people who have broken through the void? Are they the monarch's illegitimate children? Or are they the Prime Minister's pearls in the sea? This battle formation was simply too frightening. Chu Yang and the others stayed in the heaven continent peacefully, enjoying the rarest and most peaceful time of their lives. On the third day, Ning Tianya finally appeared in the southeast flat mountain ridge with Tai Butian, who was travel-worn. Of course, the Minister of Internal Affairs, Feng Chiliang, accompanied them along the way. Minister Feng's future was in Chu Yang's hands. It could be said that his lifetime of happiness and sexual bliss were all in Minister Chu's hands. Now that Chu Yang was about to break through, Tai Butian also intended to take this opportunity. He wanted Chu Yang to help him. After all, such a top expert couldn't always be a eunuch, right? The moment he saw the gate of the Chu clan, Tai Butian thought about how he was about to meet Chu Yang and his family. He couldn't help but blush. He was so embarrassed that it was hard to describe. Chu Yang's other family members were fine. But Chu Yang's mother, the only Chu clan member he was familiar with, was his senior sister. How was he going to face this? Originally, he was in the lower 3 heavens. Firstly, it was a long journey. Secondly, he was busy with state affairs. These 2 reasons were enough to delay the date of meeting indefinitely. It seemed that his former senior sister, now his mother-in-law, might not be very willing to meet him. Was the 2 of them playing an awkward game? But Tai Yang, that little bastard, had actually snuck in here without anyone noticing. This unexpected turn of events made Tai Butian's teeth itch. This little bastard. Isn't he pushing his mother into the most embarrassing situation? Wouldn't it be embarrassing to death? And Chu Yang, that bastard. If it wasn't for him adding fuel to the fire and giving advice, how would today's events have happened? Tai Butian's face was flushed red. He was conflicted. He was already in front of the gate, but he was so timid that he didn't dare to take a step forward. This matter is definitely that damned Chu Yang's idea. He knows that if he were to go down to the lower 3 heavens, I would have countless reasons. But, it's very likely that I wouldn't come up here. Therefore, he simply brought my son here, leaving me no choice. If the little bastard stayed in the Chu clan, he would have to come. If he didn't come, then it would be him who stayed here for a year, or 2 years, or even forever. Tai Butian believed that Chu Yang, this bastard of a father, would definitely do it. To Tai Butian, this move of taking drastic measures was extremely vicious and ruthless. It was really the most effective method. It was a sure kill. Of course, Tai Butian wouldn't know that the matter this time was basically her own son walking right into the trap and setting up a big trap for her mother to fall into. It really didn't have much to do with Chu Yang. At best, Minister Chu was just pushing the boat along with the current. Yes, actually, it really didn't have much to do with him. With a monstrous son and a heaven-defying husband, even the human emperor of the lower three heavens wouldn't be able to handle it at this moment. Tai Butian wasn't dressed as a member of the royal family, nor was she dressed as a man. She was dressed in a light yellow dress, fully dressed as a woman. The peerless beauty that she used to hide behind treasures were fully revealed in front of everyone. Especially that awe-inspiring bearing that had been cultivated from being in a high position for a long time. Her every move unconsciously brought out endless grace and grandeur, the aura of a sovereign descending upon the world. It made people feel even more afraid to look at her directly. It was just that now, she was like a little wife who had done something wrong. She was in a dilemma, making people feel a little apprehensive. Ning Qianya stood beside Tai Butian with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky. Actually, this old man's heart was more or less amusing. This matter, yes, seemed to be getting more and more interesting. But Chu Yang, this fellow, was really blessed with love. He coughed and said, "Your Majesty, let's not hesitate anymore. Actually, this is how the world works. Even an ugly daughter-in-law will inevitably meet her in-laws." Tai Butian rolled her eyes at him. "What do you mean by even an ugly daughter-in-law will inevitably meet her in-laws? Am I an ugly daughter-in-law? If I'm an ugly daughter-in-law, you should find me a pretty one." This old man only knew how to make plans for his precious disciple. Feng Qiliang stood behind Tai Butian, standing with his hands solemnly. "Go forward and report." Tai Butian's face was as red as a burning cloud. "Report?" Feng Qiliang scratched his head full of questions. "Your Majesty, how should I report?" With this question, Tai Butian was also stunned. Yes, how should she report? In what capacity should she report? Could she say that the woman raised by the Chu clan's Grand Duke had returned? How should she say that? If she really said that, would Tai Butian still have any dignity left? But if she said that the Emperor of the lower three heavens had arrived? That obviously wouldn't do. What? You still came to the Chu clan to flaunt your prowess? Say that you're the Grand Duke's mother? But that Grand Duke seemed to still be surnamed Tai. Tai Butian thought about it several times but couldn't get the gist of it. For a moment, she was also somewhat at a loss. Her wisdom of the past was naturally gone, and she was at a loss for what to do. Even her identity was a problem now. Of course, she could still have an identity. For example, Ning Qianya. As long as she said that Ning Qianya, Supreme Ning, had personally come to the Chu clan would definitely welcome him. But in that case, what would she be? A lackey who relied on others' might to intimidate others? That wasn't right. For a moment, the three of them actually froze. It was the Chu clan's gatekeeper who saw the three of them come together very quickly. Then, he stood not far from the door with a complicated expression. Also, it seemed that this woman was simply unbelievably beautiful. She didn't even look like a human. She was a fairy. Chapter 1707. Ning Qianya and Feng Qiliang looked at Tai Butian together, obviously letting her make the decision. Tai Butian's pretty face instantly turned as red as a persimmon in late autumn, as red as it could get. "If that's the case, I'll have to trouble the three of you to inform." Tai Butian's face was red as she almost stammered. Tai Butian of the lower three heavens. This, requests an audience. After stammering for a long time, she still couldn't say who she was requesting an audience with. She was already so embarrassed that she couldn't show her face. The three guards looked at each other. How could anyone who could guard the door be a fool? They thought to themselves, which master's romantic debt has come knocking on our door? He's really lucky with women. Since the other party had already introduced herself, they nodded and said, "If that's the case, please wait a moment." Immediately, a person went in to report. Of course, they didn't know who exactly this Tai Butian was. They also didn't know what the three words Tai Butian meant in the lower three heavens and here, but the next moment, they knew. They knew completely. The Chu clan's mansion suddenly erupted. Then, Chu Filing, First Madam Yang Ruolan, and First Young Master Chu Yang almost ran out. Then, they saw First Young Master Chu Yang dashing out like a flash of light. The next moment, he held this indescribably beautiful woman in his arms. "You're here, you're finally here." Chu Yang hugged the beauty tightly. Let go of me. What have I become?" Tai Butian was embarrassed and anxious as she struggled with all her might. That original graceful bearing of a sovereign had long flown to God knows where. It was unknown whether it was beyond the clouds or somewhere else. Anyway, it was definitely very far away. Chu Yang laughed and let go of the beauty. Facing Chu Feiling and Yang Ruolan, these two people whom she was destined to meet but was most afraid of meeting, Tai Butian was even more embarrassed and embarrassed. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. This. How should I address them? This matter was truly too difficult to handle. Chu Feiling and Yang Ruolan were already prepared. Seeing Tai Butian's embarrassed look, the two of them also felt a little strange and expectant as they looked at her with an amused expression. Chu Yang rubbed his nose and laughed. Then, he feigned ignorance and said, "Father, Mother, let me introduce you. You definitely haven't met her before. This is Tai Yang's mother. Millimeter, cough, cough. She is the emperor of the Iron Cloud Empire of the lower three heavens, cough cough, and also your daughter-in-law." She secretly added another word. One of them. Tai Butian's pretty face turned even redder. Seeing that there was no way she could avoid this, she could only grit her teeth and take 3 steps forward. Then, she knelt down gracefully and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, "Daughter-in-law Butian, greets father-in-law and mother-in-law." As he spoke, he kowtowed. This bow was necessary, no matter how familiar they were in the past. However, it involved the important matter of recognizing one's ancestors. That was something that could not be done carelessly. No matter how many misgivings Tai Butian had in her heart, she had already arrived at the Chu clan. But it was no longer up to her. Other than father-in-law and mother-in-law, there was no other way to address them. If he still called her senior sister, then the entire Chu clan would become the biggest joke in the heavenly layer. Therefore, this meeting had really forced Tai Butian into a corner. With Dan here, Tai Butian had no choice but to come and give in. "Oh my, get up, get up." Chu Feiling said hurriedly. Yang Ruolan stepped forward and helped Tai Butian up. She pulled her into her arms and couldn't stop grinning. She whispered into Tai Butian's ear, "Little girl, you were so stubborn back then." Humph humph. Tai Butian's face turned even redder. They were originally senior and junior sisters, so they were naturally very familiar with each other. However, this was the first time they met openly after changing identities. She recalled how she had been stubborn back then and said that she wouldn't acknowledge Chu Yang. And the audience at that time was her senior sister, mother-in-law in front of her now. Yang Ruolan smiled warmly and hugged Tai Butian as they walked into the house. Since she was her junior and now her daughter-in-law, how could Yang Ruolan bear to let Tai Butian continue to be embarrassed? A red carpet was laid out in front of the main entrance of the house. On the red carpet, there was a large fire basin with flames burning fiercely. Chu Yang came up and whispered to Tai Butian, "Jump over." Tai Butian was stunned. Seeing that everyone was smiling and looking at her, she had no choice but to jump over. Instantly, there was applause all around. She saw that Chu Yang had also jumped over with her. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. Was this worthy of applause? It was just a small fire basin. Besides, even if it was a peerless lightness technique, what was there to praise in a martial arts clan like the Chu clan? This is called jumping over a fire pit. Chu Yang whispered into her ear, "It's a custom here. It means that coming to my house is equivalent to jumping out of a fire pit. From now on, everything will be smooth sailing. Of course, it also means that you're a member of my family." Realization dawned on Tai Butian. She thought to herself, so being the emperor of the lower three heavens is a fire pit. Being the emperor is jumping into a fire pit. This is really strange. Could it be that living in the world, hundreds of millions of people are looking forward to jumping into the fire pit every moment? Forget it, seeing that you're treating me as a member of your family, I won't be calculative. Then, another maid came over and presented a red robe. As bright as a flower. Yang Ruolan whispered into Tai Butian's ear. Tai Butian's face became redder and redder. Finally, She nodded shyly. Normally, a new daughter-in-law would have to wear a wedding dress when she first entered the family. Even if it was a woman outside, as long as the family acknowledged her, she would have to go through the wedding ceremony again. This was a custom of the southeast. However, Tai Butian and Chu Yang were doing everything in secret. Even their children were already so old. Obviously, it was somewhat inappropriate to go through the wedding ceremony again. No matter what, it felt a little weird. Yang Ruolan had a rough discussion with her family members and could only come up with a compromise. They would just walk through the hall of the Chu clan in a wedding dress and kowtow to the ancestors. This would avoid awkwardness and save a lot of trouble. Then, they would walk around the Chu clan compound. As the saying went, those who enter the hall, those who enter the kitchen. In this way, they would officially enter the Chu clan and become a member of the Chu clan. As for the wedding ceremony, it could only wait until Chu Yang's wedding in the future. Everyone would go through the wedding ceremony together to make up for the ceremony that couldn't be made up now. Anyway, Chu Yang had more than one confidant and they would all be broken together with him. Looking at the graceful and beautiful Tai Butian wearing a bright wedding dress, Chu Yang stroked his chin and smiled. Little girl. Let's see how you can run this time. Do you think that I can't do anything to you just because you're the emperor? Now that you're in the Chu clan, what you do and what you don't do, isn't it still up to me? When a new daughter-in-law meets her parents-in-law for the first time, she has to listen to whatever they say. How can you resist? From now on, you're a proper member of the Chu clan. More importantly, you're my wife. One of my wives. Run. Wishful thinking. This was naturally the method that Chu Yang and Yang Ruolan's mother came up with. It was meant to be used against Tai Butian. How would Tai Butian know that there were so many twists and turns in this? In addition, it was her first time here. She was in a daze and extremely shy. Everything was manipulated. Until the end, she didn't even realize what was going on. The only thing she felt was embarrassment. At the side, Chu Yang was already thinking of naughty ideas in his heart. His face was full of lust. Yes, if you want to run in the future, I'll strip you naked and keep your clothes. Let's see how you can run then. Hey, wow, my mommy is so beautiful. A young and tender voice was heard cheering. Little Tai Yang was carried out from Chula Er's arms. Chapter 1708. Why did you come in? Get out. Tai Butian blushed. The person who came in was Chu Yang. Chu Yang's eyes widened, but he was just pretending to be confused. He said in surprise, "This is my house, why can't I come in?" Tai Butian blushed and said, "Your house? Then I'll go look for my mother to change houses. Who wants to stay with you?" Chu Yang laughed and said, "Change houses? Novel chapters are updated the fastest. Where do you want to change houses in the middle of the night? Pretty girl, did you forget what you did today? You've already worn the wedding dress, jumped into the fire pit, and acknowledged your ancestors. From now on, you're my rightful woman. Where do you think you're going to run away to? Change houses? That's hilarious." Huh. Tai Butian's eyes widened. What the fuck? She seemed to have fallen into a trap. She announced to the world that she acknowledged her ancestors in broad daylight and became someone's woman from now on? Seeing Chu Yang's handsome face getting closer and closer, Tai Butian panicked and retreated step by step, her face getting redder and redder. When she finally retreated to the back, there seemed to be something obstructing her. She sat down on the bed in a moment of carelessness. Chu Yang pounced over like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, holding Tai Butian's delicate body tightly in his arms. Tai Butian was about to struggle when she heard Chu Yang say in her ear, "His Majesty has asked me to serve him to bed. For His Majesty to sleep comfortably at night, I'll do my best to serve him. I'll use all kinds of methods and postures to make him happy. Even if I have to do my best, I'll let him enjoy the wonderful feeling of being an immortal. Does Your Majesty look forward to it?" Tai Butian's face turned red and she said angrily, "Rogue. You pervert, let go of me, let go of me." Yuren screamed in a low voice. Chu Yang's hand slipped into her lapel. Sticking close to her tender skin, he pushed his hand deeper into her body. Then, He teased softly, rogue? Pervert. I'm His Majesty. He likes it the most when I play rogue with him. If I don't, what will His Majesty do? So I've decided. How hooligan could he be today? You have to be as perverted as possible to His Majesty. You have to be as perverted as possible until you have no place to be perverted. Tai Butian still wanted to resist and struggle, but Chu Yang's hand covered her plump breasts and gently kneaded them. She only felt that her entire body was going soft. With great effort, she said, "You." Chu Yang's other hand reached out. He reached into the hem of her skirt and reached out to cover her white and tender buttocks. He gently kneaded and said, "It's late at night. This humble subject has helped Your Majesty take off your clothes. I've been wearing these cumbersome clothes for the entire day. How can this be? Hurry up and get rid of it." In Chu Yang's voice, there was a burning passion that was about to explode. It seemed as if some kind of emotion was about to erupt. With a groan, Tai Butian's entire body fell limply to the ground. She could clearly feel the nimble movements of Chu Yang's fingers. She felt a chill run down her spine, and her clothes were falling off her body piece by piece. Tai Butian closed her eyes tightly. Her face was as red as the morning sun. His entire body stiffened. Then, it stopped for a moment. After a series of rustling sounds, a warm and strong body that she hadn't felt in a long time covered her body gently, as if afraid of pressuring her. Chu Yang's dreamy voice said, "Your Majesty, I'm here. I'll do my best to serve Your Majesty." Tai Butian was extremely embarrassed. She pinched him hard. Despite the pain, Chu Yang continued to tease her. "So Your Majesty can't wait any longer." "I'll come right away." Tai Butian pouted. The candlelight was extinguished. It was spring in the room. More than 3 million words have been omitted here. The next few days passed peacefully, and happily. The world-destroying demonic tribulation caused by the extraterrestrial demons had been eliminated. If one were to say that peace and peacefulness were to be expected, the unusual calmness was something that Chu Yang found hard to believe. It had been more than half a month since the day of the breakthrough. How could the aura of the heavenly palace still appear? Chu Yang was also very confused now. Could it be that he had made a mistake? That Zheng and the others hadn't reached the stage where they could break through the void yet? Otherwise, how could it be so peaceful? But that shouldn't be the case. Although Zheng and his brothers weren't as strong as the Dharma Supreme, they were definitely above Ning Tianya. There was also the Sword Spirit. The Sword Spirit was very sensitive to the level of one's cultivation. His judgment had never been wrong before. Zheng and his brothers were definitely at the level of breaking through the void. In fact, they might have even surpassed it by a lot. But why did they have the aura of the heavenly palace? It was hard to understand. But while it was hard to understand, the aura of the heavenly palace was a good thing for now. Chu Yang and the others had been through many trials and breakthroughs. They had been on the brink of death many times. It was also a good thing that they had the chance to relax now. They could adjust their bodies and emotions. Only then could they be in the best condition to welcome the new era and explore the unknown future. The entire continent was still in a state of chaos, and this chaos would last for a long time. However, due to the fact that the entire double heaven was in a state of chaos, the entire continent was in a state of chaos. However, in the heavenly realm, almost all of the high-level martial artists had been wiped out in one fell swoop. Even if they were allowed to create chaos in the martial world now, it wouldn't be too chaotic. With the Moonbreeze duo leading the law enforcers, they could definitely handle everything calmly. There wouldn't be any exceptions or what ifs. Diwu Qingru was still the same. All of his plans came from him. Although he was very tired every day, so tired that it was indescribable, and even with his cultivation, he was so busy that he had difficulty sleeping every night. However, Diwu Qingru was very happy. He had finally found the most suitable position for him. He had also finally realized that Zheng and Chu Yang were really different. Chu Yang could wield his sword and rule the world. If he was given a throne, he could be the emperor and even do his duty well. If he was given a sword, he could also slaughter the world. But Diwu Qingru couldn't. Zheng could also laugh proudly in the martial world and rule the world. He could also be the emperor and even kill people with his sword. However, it depended on Diwu Qingrou's personality. He was ultimately not the kind of person who stood at the peak. The most suitable position for Zheng was actually only below one person and above everyone else. Especially now, he was the second most powerful person in the entire heavenly realm. All of Diwu Qingrou's ambitions, all of his wisdom and all of his wisdom could be unleashed without any restrictions. Moreover, he was even given a good assistant, Ling Hanxue. Therefore, Diwu Qingrou felt that Zheng's generation would basically have no more desires in the future. When a person had more desires, his future would be very optimistic. Only those who were content with what they had would be able to live a happy life. From ancient times till now, and even in the future, this logic was true. Chu Yang was now in a tug-of-war with Tai Butian every day. Ever since that night, Tai Butian threw a huge tantrum. The first time he went to stay at his in-laws' house, he didn't sleep the whole night and was tormented the whole night. Well, it seemed that a certain king of hell hadn't done it for a long time. Now that he finally had the chance, how could he not go all out? Tell me, how am I going to face people in the future? Tell me. Tai Butian was unable to restrain her anger. The domineering aura of an emperor was fully displayed. Chu Yang smiled cheekily. Your Majesty, please allow me to report. Actually, there's nothing to do with it. It's just human desires. Your Majesty is not a human and I am not a human. Since we are humans, how can we not have any desires? Reuniting after such a long time, it's only right to indulge in a night of pleasure. Nonsense. Nonsense. Tai Butian was embarrassed and anxious. She was too ashamed to show her face. Tai Butian reprimanded him verbally, but in her heart, intentionally or unintentionally, she recalled last night's indulgence in a night of pleasure. A certain fellow went crazy like a wild beast. Under the heat of passion, he seemed to have made quite a big commotion. He even did it. This really made her feel a little ashamed. Seeing that Tai Butian was really anxious, Chu Yang was someone who did it and naturally had his own means. He pretended to be mysterious and said, "Yes, I forgot to report to Your Majesty. It seems that I have already used my divine senses to completely block off this room last night. So, Your Majesty can rest assured that no one else will be able to hear you." Tai Butian was finally relieved when she heard this. Then, she flew into a rage out of humiliation. "So you were just teasing me just now?" She instantly said goodbye in a coquettish manner. "Okay, since no one heard it, I might as well do it again." "Are you serious?" "I've been holding it in for a long time." Chu Yang begged for mercy but to no avail. Thus, he directly started to play a rogue move. The moment he used this move, he indeed turned the tide. The situation was instantly reverse. Tai Butian screamed and immediately begged for mercy. Up till now, ZJ still didn't have the energy to get out of bed. It was his first day at his in-laws' house. No matter where the rules were, he had to wake up early to pay his respects. If Chu Yang messed around again, he probably wouldn't be able to do anything until noon. If that was the case, he would really become a big joke. For the next few days, Tai Butian was constantly pestered by Chu Yang. "Are you leaving with me or not? Just leave with me. Chu Yang, you bastard. Are you leaving with me or not? Just leave with me." For the next few days, Tai Butian was pestered by Chu Yang until her heart was in a mess. Unlike his usual self, Chu Yang really pestered her like a sticky candy. "You want to leave? Fine. But you have to leave with me. You have to give me a definite answer. A negative answer." No. Tai Butian was in a dilemma. How could ZJ bear to abandon her? On one side was the people under ZJ's rule and the heavy responsibility. On the other side was her husband and a happy family. It was hard to abandon either side. But the moment she showed signs of rejection, Chu Yang started to use all kinds of methods. Things that could be used, things that couldn't be used, things that should be used, things that shouldn't be used. Seeing that he really couldn't take it anymore, he directly flew into a rage out of humiliation and pressed Tai Butian onto the bed, feasting on her. Anyway, Minister Chu had been holding it in for a long time. You're already under my roof and you still dare to say that you're not willing. Just nice, let me punish you. Let's see if you still dare to refuse. Chapter 1709. From then on, Tai Butian lived a life that she had never even thought of before. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that an emperor of a generation who controlled millions of rivers and mountains in the lower three heavens would actually be bullied like this one day. In the beginning, she was still resisting, struggling, angry and intimidating, but in the end, she didn't even have the strength to resist. The moment she saw Chu Yang's majestic body approaching her, she started to feel flustered, shy and scared. Of course, she didn't see her son these few days, nor did she see Yang Ruolan and Chu Feiling. Even that old man Ning Tianya was nowhere to be seen. When she asked, she replied that the elder ancestor Chu Xiaoshan had called the child and his grandparents over. Firstly, to protect him, and secondly, to impart a certain supreme secret martial art of the Chu clan. Hearing this answer, Tai Butian was relieved. She knew that an old aristocratic family like the Chu clan had its own unique inheritance. It seemed that her son was still very valued in the Chu clan. Although she couldn't help but feel a little worried, she was more happy. As a mother, what could make her happier than seeing her son being valued by everyone? Wasn't it? Of course, Tai Butian also knew that since she had come to the Chu clan, she shouldn't think of going back in the short term. Fortunately, the lower three heavens was already on track. With Imperial Uncle Tai Long Cheng holding the fort, there wouldn't be any problems, at least not in the short term. She would just take it as a vacation here. Also, although a certain someone was very hooligan, overbearing and unreasonable, Tai Butian was still very attached to Chu Yang's warm embrace. If she really didn't go with him, she really didn't know when he would return from this trip to the heavenly imperial court. When they met again in the future, Chu Yang might still be as elegant as before. But whether her hair was grey or she had already become a pile of yellow soil, that was hard to say. Thinking of this, Tai Butian felt a little sad. Sometimes, when she saw Chu Yang sleeping soundly at night, she would also cry silently. Although Tai Butian was a woman, she rarely cried. Before she unified Iron Cloud, she had only cried 3 times. The first time was because her father didn't hesitate to massacre the harem to ensure the stability of Iron Cloud. He killed his wife and daughter and hid Tai Butian's female identity, thinking that it was too much to nurture. Tai Butian shed tears for the first time. In the end, her father died because the poison was too deep. Tai Butian shed tears for the second time. As for the third time, it was for Chu Yang. That day, Chu Yang's life was in danger. This was the beginning of this relationship. Tai Butian didn't want Chu Yang to know about it at the start. She had schemed to hide it, and after she succeeded, she shed tears for the third time. However, by now, the Tai Butian who never shed tears had already become a flower of the past. When Iron Cloud was united, her son was her companion. On the surface, she still looked the same as before. She was decisive and bright. She also had the bearing of a ruler that intimidated the lower 3 heavens. However, she was already a little woman in her bones. Especially now, she was behaving like a little woman. In the dead of the night, she would think about the boundless future. She would be full of worries, and she would cry from time to time. Time slowly passed day by day. The clear-headed Mo Tianji also felt that something was strange. On the 10th day, he rushed to the Chu clan, and asked Chu Yang if he knew what was going on. And why was it like this? Chu Yang was also at a loss now. How would he know what was going on? However, Mo Tianji came at the right time this time. He asked Mo Tianji to bring back some of the more precious medicines, such as heavy pills, some purple crystals, souls of purple crystals and so on for his family members in the lower 3 heavens. Mo Tianji stayed for 3 whole days this time. He brought back a lot of gifts. Furthermore, he paid a special visit to Third Master Chu, Chu Fei Han. Third Master Chu and Mo Tianji talked for a long time. Third Master Chu was really fond of Mo Tianji, this handsome young man. Mo Tianji was especially polite. His manner of speaking made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Mo Tianji held Third Master Chu in high esteem. Intentionally or unintentionally, Third Master Chu had already been praised to the heavens. Third Master Chu liked it so much that he even proposed to become sworn brothers with Mo Tianji in the end. This gave Mo Tianji, who had ulterior motives, a huge fright. That very afternoon, he took the things that Chu Yang gave him and fled in defeat. Chu Le personally sent Mo Tianji out. Seeing Mo Tianji leave in such a sorry state, she couldn't help but smile. Chu Yang had already faintly sensed someone's thoughts. Now that he saw Mo Tianji's strange whereabouts and didn't even bring Mo Qingwu along, this made Chu Yang very unhappy. He asked Chu Le, "Sister, what do you think of Mo Tianji? He's all right." Chu Le didn't comment. "Sister, you have to be more vigilant. This guy eats people without spitting out the bones," Minister Chu fiercely said in front of his sister. "Yes, I know." Chu Le rolled her eyes at her brother. This seemed to be the first time Chu Le rolled her eyes at a certain king of hell. This made a certain king of hell hate someone even more. Another half a month passed. The continent gradually stabilized and basically calmed down. However, there were still no signs of Chu Yang and the rest breaking through the void. This time, not only the sharp Chu Yang and Mo Tianji, but even the slow-witted Dong Wushang, Ji Mo, and the others noticed. Even someone as simple-minded as Ji Mo also noticed this. Everyone felt strange and had thousands of questions in their hearts. Apart from Brother Jie, the Moonbreeze couple even specially came once. Firstly, to ask about this matter. Secondly, to thank Chu Yang. Feng Euro is finally pregnant. For the Moonbreeze couple, their long-cherished wish had come true and their beautiful dream had finally come true. This was really the happiest thing in the world. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Chu Yang congratulated him again and again. Yu Lingxue couldn't stop smiling. "It's all thanks to you that my wish came true," Chu Yang coughed repeatedly. "This is really. Your wife's pregnancy is all thanks to me." This. If someone with ulterior motives heard this and casually said a few more words, I wouldn't be able to clear my name even if I jumped into the ancestral spirit river. The Chu clan was really lively for a few more days. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Tai Butian finally couldn't hold it in anymore. "No matter what you say, I can't take it anymore. At least let me see my son. Otherwise." Chu Yang could only say in a secretive manner, "Our son actually went back to the lower 3 heavens long ago." Tai Butian was shocked. "What? How can it be? What's going on?" Cough cough. Minister Chu coughed repeatedly. "Our son has gone back to do something big this time. It's to usurp the throne. He should be firmly seated on the throne by now, right? Your Majesty, you should have already been promoted to the throne by now." Tai Butian was completely dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. This was, of course, the little fellow's idea and Chu Yang's instigation. The following was the content of the conversation between a certain delinquent father and son. "Little fellow, do you like being the emperor?" asked the father. "I love being the emperor the most," said the little fellow. "Does your mother want to follow me?" "Of course she wants to follow you. If she doesn't, she'll be unhappy." "What if your mother doesn't want to leave? Are you willing to help me?" "Of course I'll help you." "Then do you want to be the emperor?" "Heh. How about it?" "I think it's feasible." "Then let you usurp the throne." "Then let me usurp the throne." In this way, the father and son colluded and hit it off. Then, together with Feng Qiliang, who had a favor to ask of Chu Yang, and Ning Tianya, who had been bribed by the title of state preceptor, went to the lower 3 heavens with Tai Yang, Yang Ruolan, and Chu Filing. To usurp the throne. Chu Yang wasn't worried about this baby of his at all. Firstly, this fellow was extremely intelligent and mischievous. Secondly, he had Tai Long Cheng's loyal support. Thirdly, Ning Tianya was his state preceptor. Fourthly, Feng Qiliang was his chief imperial bodyguard. Fifthly, the Chu clan was secretly protecting him. With these 5 conditions, even if a country was a block of wood standing on the throne, it would still be stable. In fact, Ning Tianya alone was enough to fulfill these conditions. A supreme martial artist at the peak of grade 3 becoming the state preceptor of the lower 3 heavens. Who would dare to rebel? Even if it was an army of 100,000, as long as state preceptor Ning was willing to take action. It would be no exaggeration to say that it was as easy as flipping one's hand. Never would Tai Butian have imagined that her trip out would actually result in her being plotted against by her son, husband, and in-laws. Now that her escape route had been blocked, there was definitely no hope for her to ascend the throne. Although she heard the sad news of the great Emperor Bu Tian's death, Tai Butian still insisted on going back to the lower 3 heavens with Chu Yang. They had just arrived at the lower 3 heavens, but as far as the eye could see, they saw white flags that covered the sky and covered the earth. Everywhere was mourning the death of the great Emperor Bu Tian. From the mourning, one could see how important the great Emperor Bu Tian was to the people. Tai Butian was stunned on the spot. At this moment, she was still dressed as a woman. On the way back to Ironcloud Citadel, she saw countless people still crying bitterly, grieving the death of the great Emperor Tai Butian. Many elderly people were telling their children and grandchildren about the great feats of heaven-mending great Emperor. After unifying the lower 3 heavens, he worked hard day and night. He made the Ironcloud Citadel prosper day by day. However, he fell ill and passed away. If not for the fact that there was still a young emperor, the huge Ironcloud Citadel would have fallen apart. However, the young emperor left behind by the great Emperor Bu Tian was really amazing. When he was born, he was accompanied by auspicious signs and was blessed by the heavens. He was smart and wise from a young age. Now that he was only 4 years old, he already had the demeanor of a ruler. Although he ascended the throne at a young age, he had the loyal Prince Regent Tai Longcheng as his assistant. He even had the legendary number 1 expert Ning Tianya as his imperial advisor. The magnificent Ironcloud Citadel could take another step forward. Hearing the voices of the people, Tai Butian really didn't know how to react. This subtle feeling was really indescribable. The new emperor granted amnesty to the people after ascending the throne. Tai Butian looked at the imperial notice posted on the streets. The policies of the new emperor were very attractive and clear. According to Tai Butian's understanding of the court officials, there were some measures that even she didn't mention. These were definitely not the ideas of these people. Could it be that this little guy came up with them? Chapter 1710. These imperial measures are all very good. With Tai Butian's foresight, she could tell at a glance the benefits of the new imperial proclamation. Firstly, it could make the people remember the late emperor without limit, thus increasing the cohesion of the imperial family among the people to the greatest extent. Secondly, it could greatly arouse the people's confidence in the new emperor and fill them with longing for the future. With these two as a foundation, she believed that no matter what decree it was in the future, it would be able to be passed smoothly. Besides, it would also greatly reduce the resistance of the big clans. Even Tai Butian, the talented and bold emperor of her generation, would also be amazed and full of praise. She would even admit her inferiority. Up ahead was Tai Longcheng's residence. The two of them walked over. After a long time, after leaving Tai Longcheng's residence, Tai Butian was obviously much more relaxed. As if that heavy burden had finally been lifted from her shoulders, she looked radiant all at once. Chu Yang, from now on, don't call me your majesty anymore. I'm just your woman. Tai Butian's eyes were filled with tears. I'm no longer some emperor, no longer have any other identity. Thinking of the pressure all these years, Tai Butian burst into tears. But she was still a little worried. It's just that, can the child take it? He's still so young. What do you think? You're worrying too much. Chu Yang asked, what kind of place is the lower 3 heavens? With Ning Tianya as his imperial advisor, even in the upper 3 heavens, it's enough for him to dominate. Not to mention that he's our son, how can he be given it for free? That's true. Tai Butian smiled through her tears. It's just that it's really hard to imagine that Elder Ning would actually agree to this. I still feel like I'm dreaming. Ho! Our son is not simple. Chu Yang rolled his eyes. If there were no benefits, why would Ning Tianya care about this? Since he agreed, there must be a reason behind it. But that's not something we should worry about. Our children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. Okay. Tai Butian leaned into Chu Yang's arms weakly. Thank you. This time, the Chu clan has done too much for me. Chu Yang hugged her and said softly, "You're my baby. What's wrong with doing all this? Shouldn't I?" To be honest, Tai Butian didn't really care about the throne. To her, the throne had always been just a responsibility and a promise. Now that she was no longer the empress, it was as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. As for the promise she made that day, she had already fulfilled it. However, with Tai Yang's status, there was really no need for him to be the so-called emperor. He was the son of the current Calamity Sword Master of the Chu clan of Upper Three Heavens. How illustrious was this identity? How could a mere emperor of the Lower Three Heavens be mentioned in the same breath? Especially now that the Calamity Sword Master ruled the world. Without a doubt, his son should also be a great person who soared to the heavens. Don't look at Tai Yang's young age. Even if he didn't know anything, as long as he revealed his identity in the Upper Three Heavens, who would dare to make a move? In order to fulfill the relationship between Tai Butian and Chu Yang, the Chu clan easily made Tai Yang the emperor. It was obvious how much effort they had put in. Now that he saw Tai Yang like this, he could be considered wise and promising. While Tai Butian was very grateful for the consideration of the Chu clan, she was also very relieved that she finally had a successor. Chu Yang and his wife sneaked into the imperial palace without making a sound. They saw that the little guy was handling state affairs in a very serious manner. Tai Butian went forward and taught him a lesson as usual. She picked up the little fellow who plotted to usurp the throne and placed him on her lap, giving him a good beating. Such a little fellow actually plotted to usurp the throne. Of course, she didn't use much strength. Looking at this fair and tender little fellow, Tai Butian still couldn't believe it. Tai Butian was still in disbelief. It was just this little fellow. He actually plotted to usurp the throne and even caused the death of the great Emperor Bu Tian, and after becoming the emperor, he even sat on the bench naked. He was a proper emperor. Looking at him, Tai Butian couldn't help but admit that there were some things that even she couldn't think of. Was this still a little brat who wasn't even 5 years old? How monstrous was he? Why did you do this? Don't you want to follow your father to the heaven palace? Wouldn't the sky be wider there? Tai Butian asked. There's no meaning there. At least, there's no meaning to me now. The little fellow blinked. When I want to go up, I can go up at any time. But I definitely don't want to go up now. So I'll just take it as filial piety so that father won't be able to sleep alone. Chu Yang's face was as calm as water, but he was overjoyed. Good son, you're really my son. You know how to care for your father at such a young age. How obedient and filial. Tai Butian, on the other hand, felt dizzy. The little fellow said it too casually. That was the legendary Heaven Palace, the final destination of all martial artists in the world. Why did it sound like it was a place that one could go up whenever they wanted to and not if they didn't want to? Could it be that the Heaven Palace was so worthless now that one could go up whenever they wanted? Besides, how did this fellow know so much? Actually, there's still a little. Previously, I saw how awe-inspiring Mother was when she ruled over the people. So I also want to try being an emperor. The little guy said in all seriousness, Mother, please don't worry. I want to be an unprecedented emperor in the Double Heavens continent. Not only do I want to unify the Lower Three Heavens, I also want to unify the Upper Three Heavens. I want the whole world to become a country. All the people in the world must submit to my rule. Looking at this young and tender face, both of them were a little shocked. Chu Yang and Tai Butian were a little shocked by this ambition. Even Tai Butian definitely didn't have this kind of ambition. After talking to Ning Tianya, both of them were finally relieved. Chu Feiling and Yang Ruolan were also here. With the full support of the Chu clan, if Tai Yang still couldn't be an emperor, that would be really unbelievable. The next thing to do was for Chu Yang to start raising Tai Butian's cultivation with all his might. Tai Butian, who had no more worries, naturally let go of all her worries and focused on improving. My Majesty, Don't think that you have nothing to do now that you're no longer an emperor. After we go to the Heaven Palace, all the internal affairs, including all the external affairs, will be managed by you. You have an important role to play. Chu Yang said, that's our real stage. Tai Butian agreed solemnly. She knew that Chu Yang was definitely not saying empty words or just saying perfunctory words to brush her off. After reaching the Heaven Palace, a new challenge would begin immediately. And at that time, they would have to start from nothing and gradually conquer the world. Conquering the world of the Heaven Palace step by step. The difficulty of that couldn't be compared to the Heaven Palace now. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. It was really too difficult. But the more difficult it was, the more challenging it would be, the more fun it would be, and the greater the sense of accomplishment and satisfaction after achieving it. Fighting with the heavens was endless fun. Fighting with the earth was endless fun. Fighting with people was endless fun. This was the principle. At that time, everyone's road ahead would definitely be full of thorns. What Chu Yang had to do was naturally to cut through the thorns, open up the road ahead, and be in charge of fighting. And stabilizing the rear and controlling the overall situation undoubtedly fell on him. At the same time that Tai Butian felt the pressure again, she also felt a burst of excitement. All these years, her cultivation hadn't improved, but all the foundations had long been laid. Because Tai Butian wanted to save Chu Yang, who was poisoned that day, she gave up her virginity and even lost an extremely rare icy heart talent. It was only when she gave birth to Tai Yang that she happened to have the help of a heavy pill. She broke through and then stood up again, transforming into the icy heart jade bone body that had never been seen before in the history of the Heaven Palace. Her cultivation aptitude was absolutely unparalleled. From what Chu Yang knew, it was only slightly below Mo Qingwu's innate body. Previously, because she was busy with state affairs and taking care of little Tai Yang, her cultivation was delayed and her progress was relatively slow. Now, with Chu Yang's full support, and in order to let Tai Butian improve even more, Chu Yang didn't hesitate to use the Moon Breeze dual cultivation technique that he had obtained from Wu Qianqian. Her Icy Heart Jade Bone Foundation had long reached the realm of complete perfection. At present, although it was just like a dried-up pond, as long as Chu Yang poured in a large amount of clear water, this pond could directly become a boundless harbor. During this period of time, Tai Butian's cultivation had been steadily and rapidly improving at a tremendous pace. Chu Yang brought Tai Butian and the two of them traveled for a few more days in the lower three heavens. They even specially made a trip to Beyond the Heavens sect to visit Wu Yunliang and the others. After Chu Feiling and Yang Ruolan checked out the lower three heavens, they followed Tai Butian and returned to the upper three heavens. After traveling continuously, the husband and wife didn't feel tired at all. Instead, they were filled with a faint melancholy of parting. They knew clearly that when Chu Yang was completely at ease, it would probably be time to leave. Unknowingly, 2.5 months had already passed since the last battle with the Dharma Supreme. On this day, Chu Yang suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of uneasiness. Suddenly, the entire sky above the heavenly layer continent was filled with dark clouds in a very short period of time. The entire clear sky was completely covered up. That vast and mighty power of heaven and earth finally came crashing down. Has the time finally come? When Chu Yang and Tai Butian were bidding farewell to their family members for the last time, Mo Tianji, who also sensed it, rushed to the Chu clan with Mo Qingwu. This time, Mo Qingwu formally paid her respects to Chu Feiling and Yang Ruolan, as well as the ancestors of the Chu clan, as their daughter-in-law. At the same time, within a radius of 10,000 miles in the lower three heavens, incense and candles were everywhere. Hundreds of millions of people were devoutly worshipping. This day, under the insistence of the Iron Cloud Great Emperor, was designated as the most solemn festival of the future generations, the day of opening the heaven. All the big clans in the lower three heavens also worshipped their ancestors, burned incense, and prayed. Chu Yang, Mo Qingwu, Tai Butian, Chu Le, Tan Tan, and Xie Danfeng walked out of the gate of the Chu clan's old residence at the same time. Everyone came to send them off. Meng Chaoran and Chu Xiaoxin were also there. Chapter 1711. Obviously, Meng Chaoran knew his disciples' temper very well. In terms of trouble, even 10 Chu Yangs couldn't compare to one Tan Tan. Tan Tan was definitely a legendary troublemaker. Therefore, he reminded him seriously. Master, I can't bear to part with you. Why can't you take things easy? Tan Tan said tearfully. Get lost. Meng Chaoran shouted angrily. In the few days since Tan Tan's arrival, Meng Chaoran had lost his composure once again. He had once thought that he could remain calm and collected for a long time, but Tan Tan had completely destroyed it. He could only frown and sigh every day. Master, didn't you notice? I've become more handsome. If you don't believe me, look at how I look when my left eye is closed and my right eye is wide open. Don't I look especially handsome? After the first day of affection and sadness, Tan Tan relapsed on the second day. Meng Chaoran was pestered by Tan Tan all day long. He almost wanted to cry but had no tears. When he couldn't see him, he missed him. When he saw him, he couldn't help but want to strangle him. Could it be that distance really makes the heart grow fonder? Now, this bastard was finally going to leave. Although Meng Chaoran was reluctant to part with him, he felt more relieved. You are finally going to fucking get lost. I can finally have some peace and quiet for a while. After you leave, I'll bring my wife back to Beyond the Heavens sect tomorrow to take a look. While everyone was reluctant to leave, Chu Yang and the others bowed down. After 3 kowtows, they finally stood up and gazed deeply at everyone in front of them. After a while, Chu Yang took the lead and let out a clear whistle. He turned around and flew up. Mo Tianji and the others followed behind and left like shooting stars. They sent Chu Yang off. Yang Ruolan, who had been smiling and looking very relaxed, finally cried when she couldn't see her son's figure anymore. She was worried about her son. She didn't know when he would return. But now that we have met several times in our dreams, I only ask if Jura has returned. She suddenly jumped up and stood high in the sky. Looking at the disappearing figures in the distance, she covered her mouth and trembled all over. She restrained herself from crying out loud. My child, you must take care of yourselves. If possible in the future, you must remember. Come back and see your mother. Chu Le-er's parents also cried as they watched Chu Le-er leave. However, they still tried their best to smile. Her daughter had finally grown up. He had finally gotten rid of his illness and had become one of the top experts in the world. What more could the couple ask for? Chu Feiling held Yang Ruolan in his arms. The two of them looked in the direction of Chu Yang's departure and remained silent for a long time. Chu Yang and the others flew all the way. The entire journey was silent. The silence was frightening. The deep sorrow of parting made everyone's mood abnormally low. Their hearts were heavy, as if they couldn't breathe. As long as he could gain a foothold in Tianqiu, as long as he could break through the restrictions of the realm, the first thing he had to do was to come back and report his safety. At this moment, everyone had the same thought. Tianji, where are your 2 concubines? A day later. Only then did Chu Yang begin to question Mo Tianji. This question seemed to be asked out of concern, but in fact, there was some malicious intent in it. Mo Tianji had come over like this. Besides Mo Qingwu, he hadn't brought anyone else with him. This made Chu Yang somewhat curious. At the side, Tai Bu Tian, Xie Danfeng, and Chu Le-er all perked up their ears to listen. Gossip had always been a woman's instinct. No matter what level, rank, or status a woman had, there was no exception. Mo Tianji smiled calmly and said, "Didn't I tell you before? They were all wrongdoers that I had done in the past. I had unintentionally killed good people, so I brought them with me and raised them. Now that I'm about to leave, I naturally have to make arrangements for their future homes. Otherwise, how can I leave with peace of mind?" Homes? Chu Yang couldn't help but frown. He also knew that the 2 girls beside Mo Tianji were his concubines in name, but in reality, it was absolutely impossible for them to be together with Mo Tianji. Both of them had their own problems, so it was impossible for them to be together. If they forced it, they would only torture each other. Yes, I asked my father to take them in as his goddaughters. Their existence has always been a secret. No outsiders know about it. Now, They only know that my father suddenly took in 2 goddaughters. That's all. If they meet a good man in the future, they can choose to marry him. My Mo clan will arrange dowries for them by marrying off our daughters. There's no difference. Mo Tianji sighed softly and said, this is the only thing I can do. Chu Yang also sighed. Also, I took some time to go to Mother City a few days ago. Currently, it's being managed very well. As long as the basic principles are not changed, it will definitely continue to be peaceful and peaceful. Mo Tianji smiled with relief. Everyone chatted along the way as they rushed in the direction of Law Enforcement City. Law Enforcement City was the new headquarters of the law enforcement officers after the Order of the Heavens had been rebuilt. This was also the place where the brothers had agreed to gather. The dark clouds in the sky became thicker and thicker, and that special pressure of the heavens and earth became more and more real. In the sky, there were already flashes of lightning and roars of thunder. Chu Yang and the rest didn't seem to feel anything. They swept past the main road like a cloud of green smoke. Their speed was really too fast. Not to mention ordinary people, even the few people that they met occasionally couldn't distinguish them. The people of Jianghu were also unable to distinguish them. No one could clearly see their traces and traces. Feng Yu and the rest had already returned to Law Enforcement City to wait. In the other directions of the continent, Xiedan Qiong was also rushing towards Law Enforcement City with his wife. Ao Xieyun was also rushing towards Law Enforcement City with his 2 wives. Ji Mo and Huyen Aobo were the funniest. Because Huyen Aobo's current cultivation was far from being able to keep up with Ji Mo's speed, Ji Mo simply carried his wife on his back this time. The one on his back was skinny and small, while the one on his back was burly. This kind of situation really made one feel a little creepy. Luo Kedi and Rui Butong traveled together. These 2 weren't burdened by family matters and could be considered the most relaxed pair. Jiyu Duxing carried Jiyu Miaoling on his back, and the 2 of them transformed into a sharp sword light. They left behind dust along the way. Dong Wushang and Mo Lei, this pair of in-laws, were also on their way. When the 2 of them returned this time, they used heavy pills to treat the Black Devil's chronic illness. Mo Lei was greatly relieved and didn't have any more worries. She could set off with a certain someone with peace of mind. In a sense, this pair of in-laws was the most carefree pair. Compared to Chu Yang, Mo Tianji, Tan Tan and the other brothers, they had a considerable advantage. At the highest point of Law Enforcement City, Wu Juecheng sat quietly. His clothes were as white as snow and his expression was serene. The Moon Breeze couple was not far behind him. They waited quietly. After 3 months, Feng Yuro's lower abdomen was already slightly swollen, but it didn't affect her originally slim figure. Both husband and wife were beaming with joy. If not for the sadness of parting that filled the world and made them feel somewhat depressed, they might even be very happy right now. Another 3 days passed. Whoosh! A cold sword light cut through the air. A figure in black was standing at the highest point of Law Enforcement City, opposite Wu Juecheng. It was Jiyu Duxing. Beside him was a stunning beauty. It was Sister Xiao Miao, whom he hadn't seen in a long time, Jiyu Miaoling. The others aren't here yet. Jiyu Duxing was rather surprised. They should be here soon. Wu Juecheng smiled lightly, as if he didn't care at all. They were about to rush up the heavenly imperial court. After rushing up, there was a possibility that he would have the chance to see his long-lost brothers again. Although Wu Juecheng's expression looked as calm as ever, in fact, huge waves were already surging in his heart. He was extremely agitated. As they spoke, a majestic roar sounded at the foot of the mountain. Dong Wushang's majestic voice said, "Are the brothers all here?" Jiyu Duxing's eyes revealed a smile. He said, "You are the second." Dong Wushang and Mo Lei's clothes fluttered as they appeared in front of Jiyu Duxing together. Mo Lei's eyes were still slightly red. Obviously, she had cried many times these days. As they spoke, Ji Mo and his wife had also arrived. Luo Kedi and Rui Butong arrived at the same time. A moment later, Ao Xieyun also arrived with his wife. Before they could say anything, Xiedan Qiong had also arrived. In an instant, the highest peak of law enforcement city, Cloud Entering Peak, was completely bustling. Crying, right? Everyone joked around with each other. From the looks of it, it was just a bunch of naive youths joking around with each other. If an old man saw this, he might say, "These youths are all moldable talents." Who would have thought that these youths who looked to be in their prime, these moldable talents, any one of them was already standing at the pinnacle of the entire continent. They had even greatly surpassed the pinnacle of the continent. Surpassing the pinnacle of the continent, even higher than the heavens. Another gust of wind blew. Mo Tianji, Mo Qingwu, and the rest also rushed over. Everyone finally gathered together again. Seeing the people who were going to accompany them up the heavenly imperial court, everyone already knew what was going on. Instantly, there was a burst of teasing. "Where's boss? Why don't I see him?" Jiyu Duxing and the rest asked together. "Boss Chu is still down there. He seemed to have sensed something special just now. He will come up in a moment." Mo Tianji chuckled. Looking at his expression, it should be a great thing this time. A great thing. Could it be that heaven and earth mystery yellow fruit again? If that thing is really rich. Everyone's interest was instantly piqued and they all started to discuss it. Especially Ji Mo, who was even more whimsical. When this sentence came out, it attracted over 20 disdainful gazes. Huyen Aobo was greatly embarrassed. She pinched Second Master Ji's waist with her fingers and twisted it twice. Second Master Ji's screams were like that of a chicken being slaughtered. It definitely wasn't the heaven and earth mystery yellow fruit. The only one last time was also obtained by Chu Yang with his life as a wager. He had wasted a lot of it before he could share it with everyone. It was really because that thing's effect was really too strong. Even now, everyone still didn't have the ability to digest it. Although the good thing this time wasn't about obtaining the heaven and earth mystery yellow fruit again, the good thing had a lot to do with it. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.